kidnapper would drive around in front of the police station before each killing. He would deliberately drive around in front of the police station and deliberately painted the car red, and in order to be more exciting, he even kidnapped the daughter of the chief of police. He even left a clue. Let the police find the red van. When Captain David found the car, after seeing the daughter's accessories inside, his whole person was frozen in place. And this method of breaking down the psychological defenses, the murderer was looking for perverted pleasure, and at the same time, the killer suddenly called, asking David to apologize on TV and admit his incompetence, or his daughter would be killed. The prosecutor advised him to calm down. Don't give in to criminals easily. But by now David had already lost his reason. He went to the TV station without telling anyone. He intended to apologize to the murderer in public.
你要我来上电视台，我来了。你要我今天在这里跟大家说，我是一个没有用的人。好，我现在就说给你听。
After the prosecutor learned the news, but he seemed very nervous because he had already seen the killer's mind. The more obedient the families are, the more the hostages die, the worse the death will be, and the farce of the police bowing down and admitting their fault will definitely lead him to a bigger conspiracy. So he went to the TV station in a hurry. He wanted to stop the broadcast, but the director was trying to get ratings. Instead, he turned the camera on the prosecutor, and he wasn't afraid. He took the opportunity to declare war on the murderer. I didn't expect that the prosecutor's remarks. Instead, it aroused the murderer's desire to win. After the live broadcast, he immediately called David and said he had a surprise for him. It was in a park outside of town. David immediately drove there. However, the scene in front of him directly froze him in place. Looked up, seeing a female body in the middle of the altar. The body was wrapped in a white sheet, in an extremely bizarre position, kneeling on the ground, and the phone in her hand. It was David's birthday present to his daughter. He trembled and walked up to the altar. He had the courage to lift the white cloth, but before he could see his daughter's face, a head rolled straight down. David immediately went to check it out. But the strange thing was, but this person is not his daughter. This old man will lie on the street late at night to learn how to bark, until his hands are worn out with blood blisters. Do not dare to have the slightest slack, and the only reason for the old man to do so is to save his granddaughter who was kidnapped by a murderer. A few days ago, his granddaughter had disappeared, and the first call from the kidnappers was not for ransom. Instead, he asked the old man to bark like a dog in the street. Such a sick murderer. It's not the first time he's done it. He preys on young women. He sees killing as a kind of art. Each time he killed, he left a red gift box, and inside was a part of his work. The prosecutor took the severed hand back to the police station. After a forensic examination, the thumb was found to be dislocated. It was found that the thumb was dislocated, indicating that it had been tied with some kind of instrument before his death. The prosecutor immediately thought of a case from 2 years ago. The murdered female victim also had a similar dislocated thumb. But the strange thing is, the murderer back then had already confessed to the crime. He is still in prison. There is no possibility that he could have committed the crime. Meanwhile, the criminal police team David also found a key clue. The tool used to dislocate the thumb. It should be a kind of rigid material thumb lock. With this discovery, David immediately went to the prison to interrogate the murderer. He dropped the thumbtack and asked him to handcuff himself. He wanted to test his reaction, but the man's movements were very rusty, not at all like a person who often use. So the prosecutor began to suspect, in addition to the person in front of him, there must be other accomplices. However, he said he was the only murderer. Due to the lack of key clues, the prosecutor had to go to the place where the body was buried back then. The investigation led to a surprising discovery. Judging from the traffic conditions at the scene, the murderer could not have completed the plan of burying the body by himself. Therefore, the prosecutor was even more convinced there was another accomplice at the scene. While the police were investigating the case, the door of the murderer's home, which had been locked for years, suddenly opened automatically. When the prosecutor walked in, a red gift box appeared. Inside was a teaser of the murder left by the murderer, and in the box was a wallet. According to the identity investigation, the victim's name was Shinijuan. It is the granddaughter of the old man who disappeared not long ago, so the police immediately rushed to the home to investigate. The result was unexpectedly found. The same gift box appeared in the old man's home again. He had the courage to open the gift box, and what was inside was a bloodstained lady's underwear.